This week on Arts Insight, an artist's microscopic inspiration.
Porcelain is a perfect materials to present some of the microscopic thing, like the qualities of them.
Molding a hobby into a passion.
I never knew I could sculpt. It was like, I looked at sculptures before and I was like, how are those even made? And then I started doing it, and it's a completely weird experience.
Inflatable, explorable art.
That is inviting to people. They feel more comfortable with it and they want to engage with it and touch it physically.
And music on the brain.
Let's develop the brain neural pathways a little bit differently. Music does that, and in particular, jazz is one of the forms of music that does it in a very nice way.
I'm Ernie Manous, and it's time to get Arts Insight. Welcome to Arts Insight. Today, we're coming to you from the Art Car Museum, gearing up for the 30th Annual Art Car Parade. We'll get to all the details about this year's event in just a few minutes. But first, an artist from China is turning clay into delicate sculptures inspired by the life we can only see through a microscope.
Beauty attracts me so much, and I want to have this beauty for my viewers to open their vision to really look close. It's my curiosity into the world around us, and I have this deep curiosity to knowing things. My name is Shiyuan Xu, and I'm a ceramic artist. Currently, I'm a resident artist at the Houston Center for Contemporary Crafts. And originally, I'm from Hangzhou, China. I have a deep attachment to nature since very young. I don't know if I will be an artist when I was a kid. So somehow it just happened. And then I really want to go to this good art school in China, in my hometown. And so I just applied, all the tests, and then I got in. One day in my undergrad school, I came across this book called Seeds, Time Capsules of Life. And because of this book, it opened my mind to this microscopic world because I was so fascinated by the beauty, the complexity, the diversity, and the different ways of looking at things. So after that book, I started doing my own research about the microscopic stuff. So I collected images online, and I looked through a lot of different kind of books, like scientist books, to look at different types of the cells and the microscopic images. And that's all my resources to creating my sculptures. For me, porcelain is a perfect materials to present some of the microscopic thing, like the qualities of them. Like they are very lightweight, they are very precious, they are very like bone-like, very pure in form. That's why I choose porcelain. The whole process is, as you can see, I have this kind of slabs, and then for this I use some coils to build the structures. And after I have the whole form, I fire it. And then this glaze is more resin style. I was really trying to create some movement in my piece. So it feels like dripping, but it's kind of connecting, and somehow it supports the whole weight. It's quite amazing for me. I fire the whole porcelain piece first, and then I separate fire the glaze piece, let them connect it together. For each sculptures, I kind of have an idea of what it will be in the end, but the glaze is not totally controllable, so I always surprised by the end result, and always it's a little bit different than I thought at the beginning. So I think that's a contrast I really enjoy. As the viewers comment, oh my God, it's so fragile. It's so easy to break. I'm so afraid to touch or even stand very close to that. And I really try to involve people look closer to this piece and trying to figure out what it is and trying to activate their interest and wonders.
Check out shiyuanshu.com for more information. Okay, and now we are at a monument to an iconic Houston treasure, the Art Car. The Art Car Parade is this weekend, so we thought we would come over to the museum and talk with Jonathan Beidler from The Orange Show. Hello, Jonathan.
Hey, Ernie.
30th anniversary of the parade, huh?
That's right. Yeah, 30 years in Houston.
And so what makes this year special? What are you going to do for 30 years?
Well, we're bringing back some of our old classics that people love. We have 250 entries from around the country. Very family friendly. It's an opportunity for people to come and see this unique creative art.
And it is cool because when you say 250 cars, each one is so different. Each one is so unique. Each one is a labor of love. They're really kind of cool to see.
Yeah, completely. They are done from people of all walks of life, from children to adults. People just have an idea that they want to express through their automobile.
Now, we often talk about Houston being iconic land of the art car, but they actually come from all over the world, correct?
That's true. We actually have entries this year from Canada and Mexico. In the past, we've had entries from the UK and different places in Europe. So it's very unique to Houston, but it also has spread across the world as an interesting form of art.
So what, if you had to sum up these artists, what's some trait you see in common with all art car people?
I would say that they all have an inherent creative spirit, and they wanted to release it through something that's an accessible form of art, something that doesn't need to be in a gallery or in a museum, and that you can just see in your everyday life on the street. It really is a way for people to use art to showcase their creative spirit.
Now this weekend, as we approach the parade, a lot goes on around town about it, but it's all in support of the Orange Show, correct?
Correct. The Orange Show Center for Visionary Art is the producer of Art Car Weekend, produces it as a gift to the city and to the people of Houston, and it is a way for the organization to help people to find that inner creative spirit.
Now, of course, when the parade comes to an end, that doesn't mean art cars are gone from Houston. We have a museum where we're standing right now.
That's true. We're in the Art Car Museum right now. They have rotating exhibitions. Right now on the walls are Tim Glover and Randall McCabe, and it's open to the public.
So you're not just going to see cars when you come in here.
No, you're not just going to see cars, but you'll see different kinds of visual art as well.
But you're going to see some interesting cars nonetheless, and there are 3 really cool ones in here right now.
That is correct. Yes, these are amazing cars that people would recognize if they've seen the parade before, and they are beautiful pieces of art.
The best thing about the parade is you get to see your favorites, but you always get to see something new and exciting. And then you guys have even a Grand Marshal. Who's your Grand Marshal this year?
That's true. This year we're proud to have Cheech Marin as our Grand Marshal. He is not only well known for his Cheech and Chong movies, but he's also an advocate for Chicano art. He is one of the most preeminent collections of Chicano art in the country, and so he is in town, going to be at the parade, and people can come and wave to him and have fun.
Come and wave to him. Well, I hope they'll come and wave to him. I hope they'll come and wave to all of us there. I'm going to get to be an announcer again this year.
That's right, yes.
We're going to have fun, and thank you so much for
Thanks,
all you
Ernie.
do.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. This year's parade is April 8th. You can find out more at thehoustonartcarparade.com. Now, a young sculptor from Detroit is a natural talent. At just 21 years old, his works already have a raw intensity that usually takes years, if not decades, to master.
When Alora came in, I wanted to capture a certain depth that I think that she has as an actress. I picked a pose that was sort of sad and sort of depressed, even though my motto isn't. I picked that pose because I wanted to convey, just in my mind, I wanted to convey, like in my series, that all these pieces have in common is that they're sort of sad and isolated, and they're trying to understand why this is happening, why, and they're confused. These characters are confused because they're trying to know who they are, trying to get out of bad situations and live, explore, but they can't. I think of, like with the isolation and breaking out, I think a lot about Detroit because just in general, that's where we are. We're breaking out. We are coming out of our shells, our cocoons, and we are becoming culturally aware and very much expressive. And not just arts, but everything.
There's something about the figure that just we all can relate to, and it's so appealing. And to do it well is really, with expression, is really admirable, and it's a challenge. He's just such a young, he's so young. I think that's the thing that flabbergasts me. He's so young to be pulling this out and doing this. I mean, he's only 18, for Pete's sake. And he's got such skills. I mean, he's not perfect yet. None of us are, but still, what he is pulling out of the clay, different personalities, different emotions and expressions, that can only get better. It's only going to get better.
Before sculpting, I was in the athletics. I also played the alto sax and band and stuff like that. I was musical. I tried everything. I just wanted to find what I wanted to do, really. I just played with clay a lot when I was probably about 15 years old, and I got in a ceramics class, and I just liked playing with the clay. I didn't get the same satisfaction as making a pot as I did just making a face. There was this is so new, this type of satisfaction was so rare to me, because I've always been a perfectionist, but I didn't know I could really sculpt. I never knew I could sculpt. It was like, I looked at sculptures before and I was like, how are those even made? And then I started doing it, and it's a completely weird experience, really.
I first met Austin when he stepped into my ceramics class one day. He popped his head in and kind of waited around till there was a break, and he came up to me and introduced himself, and he said he was working on some sculpture and he was wondering if I could give him some feedback on his sculpture. And he had 3 sculptures set up, and it really surprised me. It knocked me over, actually, because he is so young and his sculptures were so developed this is his first sculpture class, basically, as I understood it, and I was just in awe.
I think at first, I even thought it was sort of like a hobby, and then other people did, but I sort of really thought that it could really mean something different.
I feel that Austin has a really important role to play, and this was made clear to me when I went to the NCECA conference this year, which is the conference for ceramic education and the arts. And there's thousands of people there, and the keynote speaker is Theaster Gates, who is a well-known sculptor. And he had an inspiring talk where he spoke about how important the diversity is and how we all have this calling. I was just like, Austin, I know, I should bring Austin here. You know, we all have choices in life, and he has chosen the human figure and working with the human emotions. And I admire him for that, and it's a real gift. And yes, I think he has a role to play to all young people in this.
When I'm looking for inspiration, I'm looking for something deeper, something emotional. I try and do the classic tradition, but also mix up my own sort of style into it. I look online for source material, or if I see a face that I think is interesting, I'll grab that model, or I'll just draw that face, or I'll just imagine that face when I'm sculpting, and then I sort of put that into the clay. Not just making a sculpture or doing a portrait, but making a statement is one of the most important things to me. Just as people, we can find something that we really love. It's just the satisfaction of being able to display your thoughts in a 3-dimensional form. It's just, it's really great that I can just sort of talk through the clay. I get to just put everything that's in my mind into that piece of clay. I completed this sculpture. It's called I Exist. It represents American slavery and just a human being feeling the need to display that he exists, that he's shouting out, he's reaching out to show that he is here, that he is a being too. Just the overall expression of it is refreshing to me, because it didn't even take me that long to sculpt it. The idea was so inspiring in my mind that it was so easy.
That to me exhibits this hunger that he has and this passion for his art and craft. He has visited any number of well-known artists locally. I know he just recently got back from Toledo visiting an artist.
I met a master sculptor. Her name is Woodrow Nash, and the most memorable thing that he told me is that the clay will reveal itself to me, that I have to discover myself in the clay, I have to discover my own voice in the clay, and that I'm only limited by my own ability to create. And when I heard that, I just it's like, this is what I want to do, this is where I belong.
I love his pieces actually in the raw state. That's probably my favorite point, is as they are emerging out, there's something in that leaves, that's a mystery to it that you also wonder about. And I like that part of his work where he is putting expression in, but then at the same time, he's letting the clay show the natural physical properties of the clay. I
really believe in conquering your fears and also getting through obstacles. Just for every person, I think every person has a different, but I think every person is trying to get where they want to in life. And to be able to actually sculpt it out, like when I'm actually sculpting something, I'm sort of sculpting my life, I'm making it.
And you can find out more by visiting austinbrantley.sculpture.com. Okay, so there's an artist in Cleveland that likes to think bigger than the canvas. That's why he created a giant inflatable that lets audiences get lost in its walls. You'd pop them.
Yeah, thanks. It might work.
Unlike most artists, Jimmy Keenly doesn't wait for inspiration to begin working on a new sculpture. It starts with a walk through the museum.
It starts usually visiting a space to walk around, take lots of pictures, or I get floor plans and I make a digital model of the museum. And once I have that to scale 3D model, I can start ideating and doing iterative design so I can make something fit the actual space.
It's not traditional paint on canvas, it's not traditional carved sculpture. It's the kind of fabric that you would see on a sailboat, a bouncy house. So that is inviting to people. They feel more comfortable with it and they want to engage with it and touch it physically.
After settling on a design, construction begins with scissors, needle and thread, and hundreds of feet of brightly colored cloth.
It's sewn together with a double seam, so it's stitched twice on each seam. It used maybe 800 yards of polyester fabric. It's a 200 denier weight fabric and it has a urethane coating on it.
I think a lot of contemporary artists are using non-traditional materials to help get through to a new audience.
Jimmy took up sewing while in graduate school, making costumes to go along with his performance art. Soon he was fabricating pieces large enough to fill an entire gallery.
When I was in graduate school, I made a lot of bicycle performances where I'd make a bike and ride the bike around town, and rather than wearing normal street clothes, I would sew a topic-based suit. If it was a bike that drew pictures, I would use raw canvas. If it was a bike made of Lexan and it was see-through, I would use clear vinyl to make the suit. And as I moved into wanting something that would be lighter weight, I continued sewing and making inflatables.
Keenly's inflatables come to life thanks to a computer chip called an Arduino board that controls air compressors and lights that bring the sculpture to life.
There's nothing wrong with a static aesthetic object, but a lot of times that's less captivating than something that's kinetic and moving. We move around, we change our location, so I want it to have more anthropomorphic or relatable features. And so if it can have breathing by using an Arduino, which is an open source microcontroller, then I can control the fans, I can control lights, and it can have more of a life than just a static sitting object.
So the first time we installed the work here, Jimmy spent a lot of time kind of configuring it with our staff and laying it out. and figuring out what scene was where and where the lights were going to go. So at one point, Jimmy was actually lost inside of the work, and we had to find him. He was so calm about it. You never think of art as being something that you could get lost in.
Not lost on Keenley's art is the one-of-a-kind experience visitors get from engaging with his work.
So this is the labyrinth part. So you can wander around, and this will have lots of patterns. Sometimes they'll just stay on, and then they'll be chasing LED patterns. Maybe I'll even leave it completely dark for 2 seconds, and then you'll just wander around and go different places. I think the two most exciting parts of an inflatable are when it's inflating and going inside it, and it's a logistical nightmare to have people go inside an inflatable. So this is trying to simulate what it's like to be in the inflatable, but you're really on the outside.
The title, Jiggle, Wiggle, Giggle, it kind of tells you this is how you can act in a museum. Art doesn't have to be super serious. It can be humorous. It can invite you to play. And that's really what we're trying to do here at the museum. We want people to live their lives with a little bit more creativeness, our creativity, and we want them to think about art in a new way, in the way that it fits into their life. So Jimmy's a perfect artist to have here at the museum because I think he helps people break that barrier that might not feel comfortable at the museum because he's such a comfortable guy.
So by having the inflatable surround the audience in the space, it can kind of give them that surreal environment experience. I want people to squeeze in between the piece and the walls because it's kind of squeezing and snaking in between the architecture, so I want you to do the same thing as the piece. It's not meant to take itself so seriously. I mean, I try really hard to make these things. There's plans ahead of time and things are measured out, and it's all, there's an idea of how it's going to fit and work in the space. And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, but we're still just putting a huge blinking balloon in an art museum, and that should be a lot of fun. And so I try to always remember that, and if I'm having fun, then there's a chance that someone else might have fun when they see it.
Find out more, just go to jimmykeenley.com. And finally tonight, is there a connection between music and brain activity? To answer that question, a Florida organization and a pediatric neurosurgeon investigate the impact music has on developing minds.
I always try to make sure that with Greater Learning Cares, we're on mission. If we can give our students something that helps to prepare them even better to receive what the teacher is saying in math, in science, well, how do we do that? We've got to go precognitive, and precognitive is the neuroplasticity. Precognitive is, let's develop the brain neural pathways a little bit differently. Music does that, and in particular, jazz is one of the forms of music that does it in a very nice way.
It's critical almost that we allow people to know the importance of music as far as the brain is concerned. So I took 2 kids around the same age and did something called a functional MRI, and they listened to music while the MRI was being performed.
Do you understand what it is we're going to do today?
You're going to see how my brain reacts to different kinds of music.
That's right.
What I found was that one of the patients, the temporal lobes, which is their speech, there's language, there's a lot of higher executive functioning, there's memory. So these are areas that we use for our learning. And both of his temporal lobes lit up. When we look at the other patient, the temporal lobe is stimulated quite a bit more than the previous subject. Just from that, I went in blind. I didn't know either subject's background or anything. I was able to speculate that the patients whose areas had lit up was exposed to a musical environment at a young age, and that the other subject was not. When I got more information on them, it was true. The subjects whose temporal lobes really lit up had been exposed to more of a diverse background, was exposed at school to music, went to a private school, so had that exposure. The other subject, very bright, but however had not had that exposure in his public school setting.
There was something happening in music class that helped me when I got back to regular class. And without that in our school systems, not that becoming less and less prevalent in our school systems, that's a challenge.
If you expose a child to a musical environment early, then it's going to have a long-lasting positive effect as they get older and in every aspect of their life, not just they're going to be musically inclined, because they may not play an instrument, but when you look at their test scores, they're going to be higher than those who weren't exposed to that.
Whether you are listening or playing, the improvisational nature of jazz connects someone to, again, I guess it goes back to that brain plasticity. You're now creating new pathways of your neurons that helps you to now receive the development part of self.
I don't think your environment per se dictates that. I think you can be in the inner city and have that exposure to music. I think you can be in the suburbs. I think you can be in the country. And I think there's potential in every person, regardless of background or ethnicity or anything. There's potential. So we have to show them that there's potential.
And I'm happy that we've been able to figure out a unique way of doing that in the conversation of Eminem, music and mentoring, and in particular through jazz. And that's what Jazz in the Hills is all about.
You can learn more at caresmentoring.org. From the Art Car Museum, or as we like to call it, the Garage Mahal, that does it for this episode of Arts Insight. For all of us here at Houston Public Media, I'm Ernie Manous. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.